called NCAA in this world, which is short for no coupon at all by debt traders. A bit of a pariah in the financial world, and no one can trust him. Weird how that works when you just say random things and promise things that you have no intention of doing.
It blows my mind that the second richest human being on the planet, that we're actually sitting here talking about, oh, well, they may not pay this debt or this interest, and they may just file for bankruptcy instead. Bankruptcy for corporations and for people like Musk and Donald Trump too, it's not a way to actually settle your debts and move on with your life. It is a legal maneuver. I mean, Musk can do that. Trump can do that. All these other wealthy corporations, Johnson & Johnson, they get to file for bankruptcy in spite of making billions of dollars every year, just because they don't want to have to pay out all of these verdicts against them and they want to spin it into a new company. It is infuriating because we see bankruptcy happen all the time with companies and people that are worth billions. We know they got the money. We know they can pay the bills. They just don't want to do it.
And they'll call you guys lazy and freeloaders and feeding off of the country and not providing anything back when this happens over and over and over again. In fact, Donald Trump bragged about it, so they're pretty open about it, and I guess in this case too. Thank you, Farron, for being here on the show. Yeah, we talked enough. Appreciate you being here. Go check out Farron on all of his shows. How many? 4 or 5 of them by now? Ring of Fire and also Fair and Balance. You guys check them out. Up next is John Iadarola with the Damage Report. Bridget Todd is his guest. Go check them out. It should be a fun show. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the watch list.
Welcome one and all to another episode of The Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, with a big old packed rundown. We've got lots to talk about. Did you know that in addition to all of the lies that he's told, George Santos also found time to tell some lies? So we've got those for you. Lies on top of lies on top of lies. Not the most important news. We do have breaking news coming up that could impact the coming season of SNL. And also Donald Trump getting involved in his own legal defense. And how do you think that worked out for him? He made a little bit of a stumble that could have some ramifications going forward. We'll be evaluating that. If you stick around for the full aftermath, we've got robots. But for now, though, we have something even more impressive and futuristic than robots. Bridget Todd is back. Bridget, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I am not a robot, but I'll try to do my best to still be interesting.
I have a feeling that you could probably do anything the robot did in the video that we're gonna show, and stuff besides, because I have not yet seen a robot who can host podcasts. So we've got that going for us.
No, we don't have robots hosting podcasts yet, but I don't know. With AI technology, you never know. We might see it.
Dear God, please don't let that happen, because I don't have a backup plan. Anyway, my backup plan was going to be writing essays for 3rd and 4th graders, but they've already scooped me on that. So they're stealing all of my opportunities. Anyway, very glad to have you here. It's been a bit since we spoke. What have you been up to? What have you been covering on your shows?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. As folks might know, I am doing a new podcast with Cool Zone Media called Internet Hate Machine, all about technology, social media, the internet, and the way it can really use online harassment and abuse of marginalized people to impact our political climate and digital climate. So folks should definitely check it out. Some of the stories we'll be talking about today really overlap nicely with all of those themes. I'm kind of sad to say, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, I think the last time we spoke, you were about to launch it, if I remember correctly.
That's right. I think we launched in late October.
Awesome. Everyone definitely go and check that out. But for now, check this out. I call it the news, and we'll be presenting it to you, breaking it down, and giving you our thoughts. For now, though, please hit the like button, share the stream if you haven't already, and you can reach out to us, super chats, tweets, comments, all that. We'll respond as we go. We're gonna be especially highlighting the awesome people today on YouTube and on Twitch who gift memberships and subscriptions to other people. It is the ultimate act of digital communal charity, and we love it when you do it. So please continue. For now, though, Bridget, are you ready to start the show?
Let's do it.
Okay, we're gonna be starting off with something exciting. Breaking news, breaking bad news for Alec Baldwin. He is charged with involuntary manslaughter for handling the gun that discharged on the set of Rust, tragically killing the cinematographer of that film. Shooting was 15 months ago. An investigation has been going on during that time. And so we've all been waiting to find out what new information has been uncovered and what legal charges will stem from that information. Well, we're now there. And Alec Baldwin, while he certainly could have faced harsher penalties, is probably not going to be very happy with this development, especially considering the fact that according to Adrian Lawrence, this particular charge, if he were to be convicted, could result in him spending up to 18 months in prison. He is not the only person being charged, though, importantly. The film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, who is responsible for the guns on set, will also be charged with involuntary manslaughter. The film's first assistant director, Dave Halls, who handed Baldwin the gun that went off, agreed to plead guilty to negligent use of a deadly weapon. So we have a statement from the special prosecutor that had been put in place by the DA to investigate this. Says if any of these 3 people, Alec Baldwin, Gutierrez-Reed, or Halls had done their job, Helena Hutchins would be alive today. It's that simple. The evidence clearly shows a pattern of criminal disregard for safety on the Rust film set. In New Mexico, there's no room for film sets that don't take our state's commitment to gun safety and public safety seriously. By the way, in addition to the charges, I'm sure that there's a lot that came up in the investigation that isn't yet public and might become public during the court proceedings. But we do know that for now, 5 additional live rounds were found on the set, including on top of the cart where the props were kept and in a belt that Mr. Baldwin was wearing as a costume piece. So the bullets, the live bullets, live ammunition weren't just in the gun, but they were literally putting them in the costumes. We have no idea how any of that live ammunition made it anywhere near a film set. But as of right now, that's what we know. Bridget, what do you think?
Wow, I mean, I'm no expert here, but I really gotta wonder what was going on that set, that there were so many live rounds just around. You know, when I first heard this story, I was thinking like, there's no way they're gonna charge Alec Baldwin. Like he was probably just handed a gun and told that it didn't have any live ammunition in it. But there, like you said, there must be some information or something that we don't know. But yeah, my heart goes out to the Hutchins family, and I really wonder like what was going on that set. It sounds like not a lot of precautions being taken at the very least.
Yeah, and again, like all three of these people, they're sort of lumping together and saying that if they had done their jobs, she'd be alive. And I agree that is literally true. But I also feel like the distribution of responsibility isn't even 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. I feel like the armorer has the bigger duty to make sure that you're not bringing live ammunition. Unless, and by the way, I don't rule out the possibility that there could be some sort of shocking development where Alec Baldwin was providing his own ammunition. But barring that, I feel like this isn't that even. Could he have checked it? Yes. I am not, this is not my world. Maybe he was supposed to. Maybe he is trained to do that. Maybe all of the actors are trained to do that. I don't know at this point. My guess would be that is not the case. My guess would be that if you are an actor and you are handed a gun, you have no reason to believe it contains ammunition.
Yeah.
Still, you have to be careful with it, and apparently he wasn't. And so I'm not saying like you, by the way, people are talking about like intent and stuff. You do not have to have intent for some crimes to result in legal ramifications. That's why it's involuntary. It's not about an intentional thing. There can still be consequences when you perfectly accidentally run someone down with your car. That said, and I'm not like the biggest fan of Alec Baldwin or whatever. I'm not doing this because like he made fun of Trump, so we gotta have his back. But it really does feel like, Bridget, he really had no reason to believe that it had bullets in it. I don't know. What do you think?
I completely agree with you. I wonder, like, if I was an actor on a set, I would not even know how to check a gun to see whether or not it has live rounds in it. Maybe there's something that we don't know. Like, was he also a producer on this film? I'm just like really curious. I also wonder, and again, this is not my area of expertise, so what do I know? But I wonder, is it standard to use real guns in film? And how long has that been the standard and why? I would wonder, like, at this point, isn't it possible to have replica guns or guns that don't actually fire? I'm very curious why a real gun and real ammunition would be on a film set. I have a lot of questions about what's happening on sets in general, but this set specifically.
Yeah, well, look, I will say that I have been in very few movies. My vague understanding that I have absorbed is that they use real guns that can fire blanks that can't actually kill people under most circumstances, but still provide some of the effect of firing a gun, which can be useful in movie productions. Seems like it's probably time to switch that, I would say. And again, like you raised some great points. Like it's easy to just see, oh, it's Alec Baldwin, who's in the movie. He was just acting. That's the end of his responsibility. I don't know that that's the end of his responsibility. As you said, maybe he was a producer. Maybe he was involved in this. Maybe they had safety training where they were supposed to check the guns before they used it. All of this, I would wager, is going to come out during the trial, which we now probably will get. It seems a little bit off to me, but I'm gonna keep an open mind as we proceed into this. Okay, with that said, why don't we jump into someone who I'm assuming right now, were I to go to their truth social, would be bleeding about Alec Baldwin getting these charges because for some reason on the right, they already were declaring victory over Alec Baldwin. It's a tragedy. Who is sick enough to believe that he intentionally did any of it? It is such a weird thing to attack a person for. It would be like if Barron Trump was practicing driving and killed an elderly woman and I was to laugh at Trump over it. What a weird thing to do. But Anyway, we're moving on from the Alec Baldwin. I apologize. This is on me. We're gonna jump into this. Donald Trump is facing charges or allegations at the very least that we've known about for some time, coming from writer E. Jean Carroll, who has accused Donald Trump of raping her in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman back in the 1990s. These accusations have been around for some time. Thanks to a legal change in New York, we were able to proceed into an actual legal process. And during that legal process, Donald Trump was deposed. He actually had to answer questions. It's a novel situation for him to be in. Usually for things like the Russia probe, he can just go literally years without ever having to answer a single question. In this case, he did. And if you're wondering how that went for him, well, at one point he threw a hissy fit and told the lawyers questioning him that he was going to sue them. So probably not well. But as bad as that might look, it's not nearly as substantive, as dangerous to him going forward as one little slip up that maybe could make a difference. And it was this. So we're gonna get into some of these weird things, but you should know that he used his deposition to call E. Jean Carroll a liar, to claim that she's mentally ill. And as sick as both of those things are, that's not as bad as him claiming that she enjoys being raped. That is a thing that a billionaire and the former president of the United States made in a legal proceeding, a claim about someone who has accused him of rape. So what he did was he took her comments, which came from a June 2019 interview with Anderson Cooper, in which she shied away from calling the event that she was describing a rape, because in her words, the word has so many sexual connotations and is a fantasy for many. She said, I think most people think of rape as being sexy, having to do with sex. She described it as a fight, as an attack, as an assault. So he took those words from this woman who he thinks is a liar and is mentally ill and he doesn't know, but he's familiar with years old interviews she did. And he said she actually indicated that she loved it, okay? In fact, I think she said it was sexy, didn't she? She said it was very sexy to be raped. That isn't what she said. We read her actual quotes. Bear in mind, he says this incident didn't happen, and yet he's describing it as a thing that did happen, but that she enjoyed. He doesn't mind calling it a rape, but she enjoys having been raped. The lawyer talking to him says, so sir, I just want to confirm, it's your testimony that E. Jean Carroll said that she loved being sexually assaulted by you? And he said, well, based on her interview with Anderson Cooper, I believe that's what took place. Oof. He says he doesn't know her and this event didn't happen, and yet he is now saying, I guess it happened, but she loved it. It's rape. A normal person would describe it as rape, but oops, I got her. She likes being raped. That's what the former president said. Also, his lies about knowing her are complete and utter lies. He's been photographed with her and all of that. Anyway, all of what we've described so far is absolutely sickening. That is not the worst mistake he made. We're gonna get to that in just a sec. But Bridget, I apologize for some of this content. We should not have to hear things like this from the former president of the United States. But this is what he chose to use his time being questioned to do.
Well, I absolutely believe E. Jean Carroll. Like, this testimony just makes it so clear. And I think it's just, like what Trump is doing is just a really familiar page from the playbook of how powerful abusers try to silence survivors and smear survivors. But the testimony that you just read just got worse and worse, claiming that she's mentally ill, saying that she's a liar, saying that it didn't happen, but if it did happen, she quote liked it. It's such an infuriating but unfortunately familiar page from the abuser's playbook to just silence survivors and to continue to abuse. And I think we know enough about who Trump is right now to absolutely believe E. Jean Carroll. And if you already didn't feel that way, this testimony I feel like just confirms it.
Yeah, I have to say, to be fair, I cannot know. I can say that what she describes is very consistent with what he has described as his MO, to just attack women, to force himself on them because they'll love it, because he's rich and famous. If I wanted to be protected against accusations of doing that sort of thing, I probably wouldn't brag about it to people. But anyway, it's absolutely, it's disgusting. It's so disgusting. I didn't know her. I've never seen her. Also, it happened, but she loved it. That's his defense. Okay. Well, as I said, that is not the worst thing that he did. I have to set up the worst thing that he did. And in the setup, you're gonna think that the setup is the worst thing because it's terrible, but hold, it's not the worst. So during the deposition, he was shown a photo of Carroll from the 90s. Trump has previously said, it's important that you note, that he couldn't have assaulted her because she's not my type. And I know what you're thinking, oh, that's the worst thing. It's really bad to imply that you wouldn't rape someone because you're not attracted enough to them. That's apparently the thing that stops or doesn't stop a rape, whether you're attracted enough to the person. This is, by the way, a defense he has made against multiple different women's accusations of sexual assault that maybe he would have, hypothetically, but they weren't hot enough for him to sexually assault. That's his defense. Anyway, when he was shown the photo of Carroll and asked to identify the woman that was in the photo, he responded, "That's Marla. Yeah, that's my wife." He was alluding to Marla Maples, who was his wife from 1993 to 1999. That's the marriage that produced Tiffany Trump. His lawyer, Alina Habba, quickly corrected him. Because if your legal defense is, and it shouldn't be, that you wouldn't rape this person because they're not your type, and then you find them to be so indistinguishable from a woman that you were married to for 6 years, that undercuts that horrible defense of yours. It also says some absolutely sick things about you. How could you possibly mistake another woman for a woman you were married to for 6 years? How is, like, I hope that that's just an indication of how his brain is Swiss cheese, because otherwise he was married for the better part of a decade to this woman. How could he not know who she is? Bridget.
Wow, I honestly don't even know what to say. You are completely right in your setup that it went from bad to worse to oh my God. I think with Trump, when someone shows you who they are and tells you who they are over and over and over again, you got to believe them. And I almost sort of feel bad for his lawyers here, really making the lawyer's job that much more difficult by continuing to speak in this way.
Yeah, I don't know where this thing is going to go. It is difficult to prove something that happened, more than 15, like literally decades ago. That is a very difficult thing to do. And as we always say, she, in even daring to bring this up and have this thing be investigated, is, as you can see from this, she is being attacked brutally on a daily basis. I am glad that she is willing to do that. I can't say, though, that I have the necessary level of faith in our criminal justice system to believe that he is going to pay the consequences for this thing that he really seems to want us to believe he did. Anyway, I want to give you an update on something else. Weird that you could have all of this in 1 week, but Donald Trump would have you believe that the dox scandal is a thing that is the province of Joe Biden right now, that he should not be suffering any sort of investigation or lingering suspicion over his intentional theft of hundreds of classified documents, that now it's all about Biden. But just in case you're still worried about him, he has a new defense that he is rolling out like 4 or 5 months after this story broke. He had this to say on True Social. "Remember, these were just ordinary, inexpensive folders with various words printed on them, but they were a cool keepsake. Perhaps the Gestapo took some of these empty folders when they raided Mar-a-Lago, capital R raided, and counted them as a document, which they are not. It's also possible that the Trump-hating Marxist thugs in charge will plant documents while they're in possession of the material. As president and based on the Presidential Records Act and SOX, I did nothing wrong. Joe did." So again, I've always thought that it was amazing that, like, one would expect that it coming out that Biden also had documents would result in one of two things that make some at least shallow sense, which would be, oh look, everyone does it, so let's lay off Trump. Or, oh look, they both did it, so if you guys are saying that Donald Trump's in trouble, then I guess Biden's in trouble too. But they have gone way past all that, and they still don't think Trump should be in trouble, but Biden should be for the far lesser crimes that he's committed. In any event, There's a lot there, Bridget. The idea that he just had hundreds of folders because they were so cool that there were no documents in them, or if there were documents, they were probably planted documents. But also bear in mind that if they were planted documents or not planted documents, he could declassify them at a moment's notice, so it doesn't really matter. But just in case, they were probably planted or they didn't exist in the first place. Anyway, why are you on my back? Go talk to Joe Biden. What do you think?
John, are you accusing the former president Donald Trump of inconsistencies and hypocrisy? Is that what's happening right here?
I think his hypocrisy is cool.
Yeah, I also love the cool keepsake defense that like, oh, these were just inexpensive folders with various words printed on them. That's an interesting way to describe like classified documents. No, it's exactly what you expect from Trump at this point. Just complete inconsistency and hypocrisy. I agree with you. I feel like if I were advising Trump, I would be like, hey, lay low. This is not the time to be like, Joe Biden did something wrong and I didn't. When y'all like, doesn't make any sense to be doing right now. But hey, it's Trump. Trump's gonna Trump. This is what he does.
Yeah, again, like we are so past the point where this can be your defense that it was just the folders. Which why wasn't there looking for the folders then? Why were they? And when they repeatedly asked you to turn it back, if it's just a cool keepsake, why didn't you just give them back at that point? Again, we do not need to pretend that he just had folders because we have known for literally months that they weren't just folders. And I don't just mean that all of the investigators have said that they found actual documents and showed them when they found them, but him and all of his defenders have been spending months telling us that the documents he had, it was perfectly fine for him to have because he declassified them. We cannot then erase the knowledge that he had the documents that they wanted us to have to know that he had. The entire thing is just madness. I hate it. I hate the whole thing. Do I even want to? Oh God, he goes on about like how they were. Why did they search Biden's house again? Because Biden is turning over the documents willingly. You dumb. I almost swore. You dummy. I'll say you dummy. Keep it together. Okay. I do want to let you know though how the American public thinks about this thing is slightly different. On his handling of the documents, 60% say that Biden did it inappropriately. 22% said that he handled the records appropriately. I've got news for those 22%. He didn't, by definition. He shouldn't have had them. But that said, 46 to 37%, they don't think that Biden should face criminal charges over the mishandling of the documents. That is slightly different than back when this story broke for Trump. 50 to 41%, they believe that he should be prosecuted. Now, many Republicans will see that and think, oh, look, people are being inconsistent. And perhaps on some level they are. But again, we have to bear in mind that there is clearly a difference, not just in scale, which has never been particularly important to me, but intent to do this. He clearly intended to steal the documents. He clearly tried to cover it up when they were requested and has been fighting giving them back ever since. Whereas Joe Biden, who should be held responsible for having the documents in the first place, has been doing seemingly everything he can to give them back ever since. Bridget.
I mean, it's what they always say, right? What is the phrase? It's not the crime, it's the cover up. I think it's clear to people watching. I agree with you. I think that Biden should be held accountable for whatever ends up, whatever he did or didn't do with documents inappropriately. But it's clear to me that one party is like doing what they're supposed to be doing and trying to give things over, in an appropriate way, and the other is not. So you're completely right that calling that an inconsistency just doesn't work in my book.
Yeah, no, 100%. I want to preemptively apologize to our producer because I was going to skip this last graphic, but instead I think I'm going to talk about it for a couple of minutes because the more it dwells in the back of my brain, the more angry it makes me. So let's jump into this. Donald Trump bleats a lot on Truth Social, and so it can be pretty easy to miss certain things and the meaning baked into them when you're rightly focusing on other insane conspiratorial things that he's saying. I want to focus on a bleat that he sent out that so far I haven't seen people talking about it, and I'm not exactly sure why that is. Here is what it says. So with the FBI being caught red-handed in Twitter files, totally influencing the Capitol election on top of all the other fraud and irregularities. The fake news media is finding it harder and harder to use the term big lie anymore. It actually angers people to do very bad things. The radical left should be careful in its use of that ridiculous term. The election was rigged and Stalin, the unselect committee of political hacks and thugs, refused to discuss it, and so it goes. People want answers. I am not a mind reader, and so I cannot say definitively that I know exactly what he is referencing there. But with that caveat out of the way, I know exactly what he is referencing there. If you've been watching regularly on the show, you might suspect it too. Does anyone else get what he's referencing there? People in the media don't want to use the term big lie anymore. They're starting to get scared to use that term. It actually angers people to do very bad things. And the radical left should be careful in its use of that ridiculous term. What's been in the news recently? Well, there's a guy, a Trump acolyte, who ran for Congress and lost by 1 billion points. He had no chance. He started claiming that the election was Stalin. And what did people do? Well, they responded with, you have no evidence. You clearly lost. And so then what did he do? He started hiring people to shoot at Democrats in like 5 different instances. And at one point, he was so frustrated with the inability of his hired hitmen to kill the people he was trying to kill that he himself took an AR-15 and fired at one of these buildings. He was angered to do very bad things, and the radical left should be very careful in its use of that ridiculous term. People want answers. I cannot tell you that's 100% what he means, but I think there's a strong case to be made that that's people doing very bad things. You guys are denigrating them and saying that there's nothing to these conspiracy theories that they're talking about. And so maybe they go and shoot up some places. They just want answers. You should be more careful with your accusations of about the big lie. And for some reason, that doesn't rise to the level of the media being worried about what is clearly a defense of political violence. Again, Bridget, this is my speculation. You don't need to be tied into this, but what do you think?
I think your speculation is I think it's reasonable to conclude what you have concluded. And I also think in a larger sense, I think that you're completely right that we're talking about political violence. We're talking about the normalization of somebody running for elected office, the election not going their way, and feeling like it's okay to enact violence against them, to go shoot up their house. And I think that, we really need to ask questions about what the big lie and election denialism has wrought in our democracy. Yeah. It is terrifying. It is very real. The consequences are very real. We know the kind of impact of this thing definitely disproportionately impacts women of color, other marginalized folks running for office. This kind of political violence keeps folks from running for office. It is really serious and really scary. And Trump just maybe casually alluding to it in this sort of roundabout way is really, disgusting.
I agree, 100%. Yeah, because maybe he's not thinking of the exact thing that I'm saying, although I think that he is. But this is clearly what he's talking about. Okay, I think it's probably time to go to our first break. I've been stalling for too long. So we're gonna take a break. When we come back, George Santos, lies on top of lies on top of lies after this. Okay, everybody, why don't we see what's going on out there? I'm going to first, though, remind all of you of a live event coming to a place near you if you're near to San Francisco. That is the San Francisco Sketch Fest, where I was lucky enough to be asked to join Francesca Fiorentini, new mom, for a live taping of The Bitchuation Room, which is gonna be happening this Sunday. Normally I would end that by saying you should get a ticket and attend, but you guys waited too long and it's all sold out. But anyway, there'll be future shows, so we're gonna have a lot of fun and hopefully I'll see you at a future event. Okay, let's see. Eric the Red says, I thought John's backup plan was a board game cafe, or maybe that was just a dream. No, I think that would be a lovely life, but I don't have the capital to make a cafe. Well, people think that I have money. I don't have money. I would love to do that. Think about that. All day, you're just making coffee, and watching people play board games and occasionally explaining the rules. You're not thinking about Herschel Walker. You're not thinking about someone being attacked for talking about their sexual assault. What a lovely life that would be. But no, I don't have the funds. Anyway, Texas Two-Step Dragon says, John, I worked stunts in the movies for a long time. The actors are not trained to identify or check ammo. It is the responsibility of the armorer. Okay, Texas Two-Step Dragon, thank you for that. I love that we have members of the audience with such a wide range of life experiences. I can't say for sure that is how this particular set was, but you know a lot more about this than I do, so thank you for that. Okay, let's see. Bernie fan, welcome to Tier 2 membership. I wanna remind you all that our Tier 3 members are gonna be hanging out for a little members hangout that we do each month. That's coming up today, half an hour after the show closes, so I hope to see a lot of you there. Loretta Smith has been a member on YouTube for 2 months and says, hi, John and Bridget. I don't know who is the most annoying, George Santos or Donald Trump. Bridget, what's your pick as of right now?
Oh, definitely Trump, no question. Santos is the newcomer.
Exactly, he's got to work a little bit harder. And he hasn't done nearly as much actual damage except to dog owners. Kenny from Philly, hey Kenny, always good to see you here. Tier 3 member for 25 months says thanks to you, John, Bridget, the producers, and everyone working hard to make the Damage Report the best daytime political news show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, Jason Ray sent a super chat saying, so this precedent should be applied to Rittenhouse's mom, no? Or was she also doing self-defense when she drove Kyle to play army and murder folks? I'm not 100% sure. I think that might be a reference to the Alec Baldwin thing, saying that because she was involved with the gun, it will not be applied to her. I can tell you that, Jason Ray, just to Alec Baldwin. Anyway, okay, Dystopian Dragon says there is a process to declassify. Trump didn't do it. Well, yes, and we've gone over this multiple times. There is a process to declassify most, but not all of the documents that he stole. He didn't do the declassification of the ones that he could have, and there are some that it was not his province to declassify, so he's boned in both cases. Anyway, Quaker Lady sent a super chat saying, what do I have in common with Janis Joplin and Edgar Allan Poe? Today's my birthday, would love a shout out. Well, keep hoping. Holy Beer Dragons, I'm kidding, happy birthday. That's awesome that you share it with such cool people. Holy Beer Dragon, you know what Holy Beer Dragon did? Gifted a sub on Twitch. Thank you so much. Washa got the sub there. What a nice thing to do. Holy Beer Dragon then went on and gifted 5 subs to members of the community, has gifted 856 subs. That is 856 nice little things. Thank you. Oh, there's more gifting going on, but I have to wait a while to acknowledge people. Anyway, thank you. Okay, with that, let's jump into some truly terrible news, starting with this.
I mean, I watch the news all the time. Kind of a hobby, I love my YouTube news. But I saw his face and I knew I sort of recognized him a little bit because we had been Facebook friends while the campaign was going on. Mm-hmm. So I knew what he looked like and I knew his voice, and that was the only thing I knew about him. And I saw him on TV and I was like, I got a feeling in the pit of my stomach about this guy.
That is Richard Osthoff, who we talked about earlier this week on the show. It's the veteran who had unfortunately crossed paths with George Santos before he became a politician, relied on George Santos under whatever assumed name he was using at that point to raise money to help with the tumor that his dog was suffering from. George Santos raised the money, took the money, and the dog eventually died. And so now Richard Osthoff, who realizes who it was that he was dealing with, is going on the news to talk about the experience. We have a little bit more of his interview here.
What would you say to him if he was here now? What would you say to him?
Do you have a heart? Do you have a soul? And he probably would lie about that. I mean, I don't want you to ever hurt anybody like you hurt me again, George. And nobody else should ever have to go through that. I almost killed myself when that dog died.
The entire thing just kills you to hear about. It is, again, sometimes it's the smaller, pettier crimes and lies that are, I think, easier for us regular people to imagine happening to us. that hit the hardest. Like, when presidents lie, about a tax cut, they lie about going to a war. Those things are so big that it's hard to really wrap your mind around it. But like approaching a vet whose dog is going to die and then lying about how you're going to raise money for it and then pocketing the money and running, that could happen to me. It could happen to you. Stuff like that might have happened to you. And for that person to now be sitting on the House floor, just grinning about how they got away with it, is just so sickening on a personal, real level. And so you feel the pain of Richard Osthoff in that interview. And so I'm so glad that his story is getting coverage. Bridget, what do you think?
Yeah, I had never seen that interview, but it's clear to me how vulnerable this person was and how they trusted someone and that person cruelly betrayed them. I agree with you. I think it really, I don't think that anybody who lies casually has any place in public office, but a lie on such a personal level is like a different thing. Like you really feel it differently. And, that his story is very moving. And I think we really have to ask, like, is this the character of somebody that we think should be in elected office? And the answer is no.
No, definitely not. I mean, that's like the latest thing that you'd add onto an entire pile of things that are reasons for him to not be in office. But this should be enough. Like, again, I have no idea how he could possibly get reelected with all that we know. Although, we live in a hell world, so I guess anything's possible. But it's not enough to just let him have 2 years. That is not acceptable. He needs to go. He needs to be taken out of that position. It's not going to bring the dog back to life. It's not going to make good all of the people who have suffered from crossing paths with Anthony DeValder or George Zabrowski or whatever the hell he calls himself. But at least it would be a start. Now, I want to move into some other recent lies. No, you're all good. Don't even worry about it. Okay, so yet more facts about George Santos are coming out. There are some that I care about. There are others that, at least as of right now, I don't. Although which ones are getting the most coverage in the media isn't always the way that I think makes sense. So there is good journalism. I'm going to give credit to Marissa Kabas, who has discovered that something like 15 years ago, George Santos apparently, allegedly had an identity going under the name of, I believe, Katara, and performing in drag shows. And if you are seeing this and you are thinking, well, it seems a little bit messed up that considering the current state of the Republican Party and how one of the few things that seems to unify every single Republican in America is that they want to criminalize being trans and or participating in drag. And I am not linking those two things implicitly, but I'm saying that their attacks are. So let's be clear about that. The fact that he would be silent about this definitely seems weird. But that said, so far, aside from a cowardice in not protecting people who are being attacked for doing the same thing that you appear to, this doesn't seem as, it's not as bad as so many of the things that he did. And I feel like I don't want to contribute to just, oh, he did something kind of risque, we gotcha. Well, hold up. We may have gotten him on the cowardice, but simply having been a drag performer is not the end of the story. That's my view. Maybe I'm being a Debbie Downer. Maybe I'm ruining this for everyone. And who knows, things could develop from this story that make it more newsworthy. Right now, for me, to the extent that this is newsworthy, it's about the fact that he was hiding this, that he is sitting by as people are attacking people participating in drag and all that. But Bridget, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I agree with you. There is, in my book, there is nothing wrong with drag. There's nothing wrong with drag performing. There's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot wrong with being like a shameless, like repeated liar. Definitely agree with that. But I kind of don't love seeing the Republican Party unify around attacking drag performers and like making all kinds of baseless, dangerous accusations about them. There's nothing wrong with drag performing. It's like there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, 100%. And who knows, again, it's not impossible that it could come out that it wasn't him. There seems to be good evidence that Marissa Kabas, and you can go and you can see at the Handbasket Substack, the evidence has been presented. There could be developments from this. I don't know. He's denying it, by the way. He tweeted the most recent obsession from the media. I don't think I'm obsessed, but I can only speak for myself. Claiming that I am a drag queen or performed as a drag queen is categorically false. The media continues to make outrageous claims about my life while I am working to deliver results. I will not be distracted nor fazed by this. First of all, stop lying. You're definitely distracted by it. You just tweeted about it. Whether you're fazed by it or not, I believe that you are soulless. So you probably won't be fazed by more stuff coming out. I don't care. It is interesting though, that he has tweeted specifically to deny this. You know what he hasn't tweeted to deny? All of the other stuff. All of the other stuff he didn't feel like he needed to get out in front of. But as a Republican in 2023, he did feel like he needed to deny the drag thing. Not the I conned a vet out of thousands of dollars of dog medicine money. Not that, he didn't need to do that. I lied about the Holocaust, I lied about 9/11, I lied about my busted volleyball knees, none of that. Just the drag thing. That's weird. That is very weird. I hope that, look, and here's the thing. He lied about all this stuff. He did basically nothing to cover his tracks. And now there are a million Marissa Cabases and other independent journalists that are digging into all of this. He knows some of the lies in his past that they're likely to find. It's weird how he's picking and choosing which ones to focus on. But that said, Bridget, there's something that I did want us to focus on that I think is more distressing. You might recall that George Santos told some lies about the death of his mother, which is objectively a weird thing to do. As a person who lost my father at a young age, it strikes me as a particularly sick thing to do, to lie about the way that your parent died. He had specifically lied saying that she was killed on 9/11. That turned out not to be true. It turned out that she had died in 2015 from cancer. So he modified his story and said, okay, she didn't die in the tower. She died a few years later, which again, that's not true. She died 14 years later. But she died because of being exposed to the ash cloud from the attacks while working in the South Tower. Now, is that impossible? No. Many people suffered lifelong health problems and did die early because of that. And so at that point, we just sort of have to accept that it's tragic, just not in the way that he initially said. Except that that was a lie too, because people have been digging into this, and documents from the US Citizen and Immigration Services show that she was not in the tower on 9/11 because she wasn't in the country on 9/11. 3 months before the attacks, his mother, Devalder, that was her name at that point, filed a request with the US consulate in Rio for a replacement green card, saying that hers had been stolen after she returned to Brazil in June of 1999. The situation was apparently not resolved. And another application that was filed in 2003, a couple of years after 9/11, she stated that she had not been in the United States since 1999. So for this story to make even a lick of truth, that ash cloud sure had to travel, that it was able to go from Manhattan all the way to Rio so that she could die 14 years later. Again, this probably isn't gonna matter. This probably isn't gonna break through. But to have multiple layers of lying about your mom dying on 9/11, if anything should be off limits in American politics, this should be the thing, Bridget.
Who lies like this? Like it's sick. Who lies like this? And then to follow it up with like, well, it was the ash cloud, and that's a lie. And I think that you're really onto something about the idea that he's not really tweeting to explain away this lie. It's curious which things he does feel like he needs to respond to. But yeah, this is not like, who lies like this? Who lies about things like this? It is, I don't even have the words for it. It's sick.
No, you have the word. That's the word. It is sick. I would like to add unacceptable, but we're gonna have to debate that because I think it's unacceptable, but it's appearing based on the results that it is acceptable. Kevin McCarthy and other Republicans are perfectly happy about it. Anyway, we're way over. That's my bad and my fault. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, Marjorie Greene, fresh off her bathroom brawl with Lauren Boebert, is picking fights with other MAGA Republicans. We'll have that for you more after this. Really fast. So my dad died of cancer, and I believe it was 2005. to some extent blocked out that period of my life because it was very traumatic and whatever. He died of cancer. It was in a hospital in Bridgeport, Connecticut. But what else was happening in the world in 2005? I think was it Katrina 2005? I guess that's how it happened. I guess he was rescuing people in Katrina because every world event has to feature me, the main character of reality. That is actually how he lives his life. Anything that happens have to be reinterpreted so that whatever historic event was going on, whatever could make him out to be impressive or a victim, that's what it's all about. What a bizarre, sick way to live your life. You know who's not sick? You know who's not bizarre? Members of our audience who have heard the call to expand our circle of welcoming and have been doing it. Swedane Dragon gifted 5 memberships on our YouTube page. Thank you, Swedane Dragon. That is so nice of you. Dystopian Dragon gifted a membership. Brian Miller gifted a membership. That goes to a random person that is watching the show. It's like the literal thing that Bernie said. Would you be willing to help someone that you don't know? That's what they're doing. They're not gifting it to a specific person. I don't even think that you can. It just goes to a random person. It says, welcome, have fun with some emotes and have a badge. What a nice thing to do. Okay, over on Twitch, Donkey Teeth Bite says, fun fact, Forrest Gump was based on George Santos's life. Jesus. You know what I'd like to say to him on the House floor? Can't sit here. But unfortunately he can. Dented Head Ed is on a 20-month streak. Wait, hold on a second. That was really funny, by the way. Donkey Teeth Bites is a subscriber. You know what, Donkey Teeth Bites, you just messed up. Because assuming that you haven't already gotten one, you get a Blue Apron gift card. I liked that joke, it was funny. So send a message, an email to rewards@tyt.com. Send your handle, your first name and your last name. And there you go, Blue Apron gift card. They'll look into it, thank you for that. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna help out our team by copying your thing into the document. Anyway, with that said, F. Finley has been a member on YouTube for 6 months and says the media should be careful. Sounds a lot like a threat to me, but it's Trump, so no one cares, I guess. I guess too, I guess the same. MZ is a member for 25 months. Says whoop whoop, Dragon Thunder, breathing fire. Thank you for breathing it here. Okay, let's see. Bob Treesh just sent a comment, I believe, on YouTube. It says, today would be my mom's 73rd birthday. It's been 30 years, but I still miss her dearly. Hug your mom today for me if you can. Bob Treesh, that comment is very human. Now imagine lying about the way that your mom died. It is so sick. Like, think about any of the death, the tragic loss of relatives that you've had. Why would you lie about that? Anyway. Luck Dragon said to Super Chat saying, you'd think Republicans would immediately kick Santos to the curb, but they continue proving they only care about us veterans when it's convenient during election time. He's lied about veterans in so many different ways. L. Morris says, my father worked near the towers and died of cancer, almost certainly aggravated by the ash and smoke. Santos can stick both his hands in a blender. Metaphorically, but yes, it's just stolen valor. He steals the valor of people who fled the Holocaust. He steals the valor of people who helped in the cleanup of 9/11. He steals the valor of Baruch's volleyball players. It's all stolen valor. Anyway, lots more comments to get to, and we will soon, but first this. Okay, everybody, there's not time to get to everything. It's on me. There's just too much interesting news every day. Some of it's gonna have to wait for tomorrow when Brett Ehrlich will be joining us. We'll be throwing away our garbage people of the week, so definitely look forward to that. Also, coming up a half an hour after the close of today's show, we will be doing our tier 3 member hangout on YouTube, so I hope to see many of you there. For now though, let's jump into this. Marjorie Greene's feud with Lauren Boebert is so 2 days ago. She's moving on to fresh game, and that game is making a fool out of Matt Gaetz. He tried to sort of extend an olive branch to her. They've been feuding over Kevin McCarthy. She wanted him to be speaker because he put her on committees, and that's it. He didn't want Kevin McCarthy to be speaker for lots of personal reasons too. And there was a rift between them, which he, in a fashion almost like a mature person, tried to fix. He said to her, bravo on getting her committee assignments. She's gonna do amazing work for the people in these key committees she has earned. Representative MTG of Georgia is back on committee assignments now that Republicans have retaken the House and blah, 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 blah. So he not only congratulated her for the committee assignments and being back on committees at all, but he told what he knows is a lie, that she would do work on those committees. But despite those overtures, here is how she responded. Thanks to Speaker McCarthy and steering for voting me on the committees I requested on the submission form most of us filled out. Too bad we're weeks behind after you spent a week only getting MTV from 5 to 1. That's the thing where you can kick out the speaker or whatever. As the leading MAGA voice in Congress, I look forward to committees, which is a very normal sentence to write. I look forward to committees. Anyway, she thanked McCarthy, she thanked steering, and then said that weird thing about we all filled out submission forms. I don't even know what that's about. But I do know the takeaway from this is she is digitally spitting in his face. Now, he tried once again to be the bigger man or something. Well, we got a few other things, but I'm thrilled the MTV is back to the pre-Pelosi standard. Totally worth it. We the people will be in better hands with MTG holding the corrupt Biden admin accountable via committee service. I'm so here for it. And she responded to that. The rules package did not change at all from January 1st to January 6th, except MTV went from 5 to 1. Literally anyone could read them online and see that. All substantial negotiations happened in conference and 5 families meetings before the 15 ballots started on January 3rd. Jesus, it's enough to make you feel a little bit bad for Matt Gaetz. Not really, I'm past it. But briefly, he keeps congratulating her. She's not interested. I don't know, is this a sign of strength and sticking to what is standing in for principles on the part of Marjorie Greene? Bridget, what do you think?
Oh, first of all, let them fight. love to see it. I mean, these are the kinds of clowns that we have unfortunately empowered and amplified in our government. I gotta say, Matt, I like, if he wasn't such a terrible human being, I would feel bad for him. It's pretty hard to watch someone try to extend a little olive branch and just get smacked down each time. Like, Matt, give it up, right? It's gonna be an argument every time. Yeah, it's hard. It couldn't be happening to a nicer guy. I guess I'll put it that way.
And he's like, again, he's not just congratulating, he's lying about what she's gonna do on her behalf, that she's gonna work, or she's gonna like read documents, or that she's gonna provide meaningful oversight over Joe Biden. Come on, she's gonna be talking about Hunter Biden, and you know it, that's what you want. So at the end of the, exactly, it's gonna be stunts, it's gonna be sound bites, that's gonna be it. And that's what he wants. Again, kind of like with Kevin McCarthy, I might feel very bad very briefly, but this is what you signed up for. These are the sorts of people that you've supported and that you've normalized. So I'm not gonna feel bad for that long. Like, you bring a bunch of wild animals into government and then let them loose to tear things apart and poop on the House floor. Eventually your shoes might get dirty too, Matt Gaetz. This metaphor has gotten out of my hands. Anyway, with that said, we have other Matt Gaetz related news. Matt Gaetz has big plans and they don't stop at the House. Apparently, according to Rebecca Jones, and we'll see if there's corroboration and all that, Matt Gaetz plans to run for governor of Florida when Desantis announces his candidacy for president, according to a key staffer in Gaetz's congressional office. The staffer also disclosed unethical, illegal activities inside the disgraced congressman's office. So that is interesting. So this key staffer is in a position to know that he's going to, perhaps imminently in the next 3 or 4 months, launch a bid for the governorship of Florida. Also, he's enough of a turncloak that he's providing this information to Rebecca Jones, who is, no friend of Matt Gaetz, and describing unethical, illegal activities. Now, we need a lot of corroboration before we can just accept all of this. However, am I predisposed to believe that perhaps something unethical or illegal has happened in his office? Well, I don't know. I've seen his Venmo, so yeah. But we do have to wait for the details. That said, he could be running for governor. What do you think about that, Bridget?
I'm with you. I mean, I am also predisposed to believe it, that something untoward might have been going on in his office. That wouldn't surprise me too much. Like, this is, just look at the company that he keeps. Look how he look how he is. Like, I feel like he's not going out of his way to be like, oh, everything here is something up and up. So I'll be interested to see where this story goes. And I want to make sure that when we talk about it, we're always centering, the survivors or the victims at the center, because what is being alleged is like pretty serious. But yeah, I don't have any trouble believing that he's the kind of person who would do this kind of thing. I have no trouble believing that whatsoever.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I have no trouble believing that he would have aspirations of becoming governor. I mean, he's one of the more high-profile Republicans in the state. That doesn't mean that this is going to be a lock for him. I will say, and is this controversial? Isn't it kind of an upgrade? I think it's a little bit better than having Ron DeSantis. I mean, it's terrible. It's maybe more embarrassing, but it's Florida. They'll get over it. I think it's an improvement, actually. I don't live in Florida. It's not up to me. I'm gonna message Farron Cousins and see what he thinks about it. That said, Rebecca Jones goes on to point out that Gaetz was so toxic during his 2022 election that even most Florida Republicans stayed away from him, including DeSantis, who did not endorse him and hasn't been seen in public with him since 2021. Of course, the sex trafficking investigation is still ongoing, although it doesn't seem like. It seems like if anything was going to come from that, it would have already come. So I don't have high expectations for that. And by the way, in the same way that DeSantis has largely abandoned Matt Gaetz supposedly believes that McCarthy has done the same thing, hasn't provided sufficient enough support or defense for him, and that's one of the reasons that Matt Gaetz had such an issue with him. Again, we're getting into very much the realm of like political gossip and speculation, but it does sort of make sense that he would try to make that run. I don't think that he's quite as savvy in a cruel, terrible way as DeSantis. So I actually think that not only would he be less bad as governor, maybe, but I also think the Democrats would have a better chance against him. Again, all this remains to be seen. Any final thoughts, Bridget, on that?
Yeah, what a parade of clowns. That's all I've got to say. Ranking DeSantis and Gaetz, it's like, ugh.
Yeah. Has anyone ever made a remix of Bulls on Parade? Because I want a Clowns on Parade. I feel like we could go to that pretty frequently on the program. Bart, please get on that. Anyway, that is all the time we have for the first hour of the Damage Report today. But there is more show to come. Thank you to those on the linear platforms and on the podcast. As always, thank you for watching and listening. If you're listening on the podcast, please give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It always helps, and that doesn't hurt. For those of you watching on Twitch, YouTube, the member stream, and a lot of other things, we got more to come. In the aftermath, we're gonna be talking about international defenders of Andrew Tate. We're gonna be talking about horrific anti-Semitic harassment of people also going on in Florida. It's a hell of a state. And robots. They're coming for your job, maybe soon, coming for you. We're gonna evaluate the evidence after this. Welcome to the Aftermath, everybody, with me, John Iadarola, and Bridget Todd. Bridget, as always, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. As a little tease for one of your shows, what's a recent story that you talked about, or a topic you talked about that you really enjoyed?
Oh, a recent topic that we talked about that I really enjoyed. I mean, it's not the cheeriest topic, but the way that critical race theory was used as a shameless attack on just educators trying to do their jobs. There's a woman named Cecilia Lewis out in Georgia who a group of concerned parents chased her out of Georgia, not once, but twice, because they whipped up a panic about her teaching critical race theory when she didn't even know what that was.
Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, to be fair, they don't know what it is. So
but yeah, they don't know what
literally
it is
no one on either side of the conflict has any idea what they're talking about. Isn't that fun? Okay, everyone check that out. We've got some news. We're gonna get to it in just a sec, and we gotta find a way to get to the robot. We're gonna do the robot. For now, though, I want to read a couple of comments. Someone had asked in the chat if I watch anime. I've watched like 3 seasons of Attack on Titan back on the day. Other than that, not a ton. Yeah, sorry. Okay, do you consider Arcane anime on Netflix? I don't think most people do. Torch Crimson says, John, did you get to see the ROP series? I think that's Rings of Power they're referring to, and I did watch it, and I did really like it. I had some criticisms, but it was good. It was good. Okay, over on Twitch, Dark Butterfly Dragon gifted 5 subs, continuing to hear the call and respond to it. Thank you for that. Very nice of you. Also, Who, member for 17 months, says, I'll donate my blue ribbon gift cards. So if somebody wants to get in touch with Who, that's, I guess, a thing you can do. That's really nice of you. Okay, let's see. Bay Photo says, what are the chances George Santos will claim to be Kevin McCarthy at some point and hijack the speakership? It can't be 0%. Well, look, there's no precedent for them standing between him and his lies. So I think at that point, Kevin McCarthy would have to step down. I think he'd be fine with it. Anyway, okay, lots more comments to get to, and we will. But for now, let's jump into some news, starting with this.
Maintain it.
Hey, you guys could, if you guys want, you could super chat your message on what you want in the building. just nothing too glowing.
You have a
So what you just saw was a number of videos showing anti-Semitic messages and hate symbols being projected onto buildings in Florida in recent days. The sorts of anti-Semitic symbols that you would expect from neo-Nazi groups or whatever. I don't know exactly what they identify as, and I don't truly care. You see this and you know what they are. There's messages about Jewish people being responsible for 9/11 and wrecking the United States. And if we go to Disease Detective's tweet, you can see a massive swastika. But everyone be very careful about what you label these people as. You wouldn't want to offend the people broadcasting swastikas on the side of buildings. Anyway, these incidents appear to have begun on Saturday. They've been linked to the groups National Socialism Florida and the Goyim Defense League by anti-Semitism watchdogs. One group warned of plans to broaden their efforts to terrorize Floridian residents. So they want to do the terrorizing. They also want to make a little bit of money, which is why they were appealing to anti-Semites on YouTube to give them money through super chats to then broadcast messages of hate to harass entire communities. The entire thing is sick. Thankfully, there are people, including with the ADL, that have been raising the profile of this. People are considering laws that would potentially stop this because for whatever reason, as of right now in Florida, it doesn't seem to be running afoul of any legal protections or regulations. So we're gonna get to that in a bit, but Bridget, what do you make of this?
You mean use the word sick? I completely agree. And I also just want to point out it's very dangerous. Like anti-Semitism, normalizing it. The fact that they're laughing about this in these videos, it's very, very dangerous. It's not a joke, it's serious. And I think it's also important to note that you're exactly right. They're not just doing this, they're not just, amplifying hate in this way, they're of course trying to make a little bit of money because it's also a grift. And so not only are they stoking this anti-Semitism that we know is so dangerous, they're trying to use it to personally enrich themselves. And so I think it's really important to point out the ways that extremists like this are so often grifting people. It's a scam to personally enrich themselves off of amplifying very dangerous hate.
Yeah, 100%. There are people in the chat right now I noticed who are saying like future GOP congressmen, and like it's intended to be a joke or whatever, but like, so what if they got elected and then it came out? Kevin McCarthy called for him to step down. I mean, Marjorie Greene is going and hanging out with Nick Fuentes and stuff like that. Like she had videos, her ranting about things like Jewish space lasers and stuff. She didn't have to step down. Why would they? Oh, because there was a swastika? Like you think there's a line of anti-Semitism that they could cross, that there would be consequences? I kind of doubt it. Anyway, none of the buildings are apparently aware of this or consented to it. I find that fairly easy to believe. City council members in Jacksonville are working on a law allowing for tougher penalties for projecting images on building after these incidents. And look, here is where it gets a little bit sticky, because obviously you should not be putting swastikas on other buildings. In my view, I don't see why you would need a specific law about projecting images. It is an act of intimidation and harassment. The form of the speech is light, but if they were to just have a bullhorn and just yell Heil Hitler for 8 hours straight, that should probably run afoul of something. My worry is that if they make it about specifically projecting things onto walls, then that's not about anti-Semitism. What about the people who are projecting, again, it's a different state, but on the Twitter headquarters about how Elon Musk was terrible or whatever? Like, that is harassment too. I don't think it's about being a part of a protected class, but oops, now projecting on the side of a building is illegal. So that's why I feel like they're going about this in the, I'm not gonna say the wrong way, because maybe that's what they're actually hoping to get with this, is to kill two birds with one stone, but this isn't the direction that I would go in.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a really astute point. For full disclosure, I have been part of many a tactic that involved projecting things onto walls, like progressive messages. And I think cracking down on projections is cracking down on a kind of tried and true activist tactic. I think that the thing, and I think it could intentionally obscure, like, okay, well then nobody who's doing this for any cause is able to do it. We really got to make this about the hate and the anti-Semitism. That is what's inappropriate. Yeah. It's not just the tactic of using light projections. People project all kinds of messages of hope and love and progressivism using projections all the time. We really got to make sure that the conversation centers the anti-Semitism and the hate.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe Florida, like, get your stuff together. Like, they're like constantly focused on like Disney put a gay kiss in an animated movie. You've got Nazis running around projecting. They're fully in public. They weren't just filming that, by the way. They were live streaming it. They feel so comfortable in Florida doing their Nazi stuff that they're broadcasting it live and putting it up on a building. Those people would not be hard to find. I feel like maybe focus a little bit on that, because that might pose a little bit more of an ongoing threat to children than a drag queen 3,000 miles away. But what do I know? I don't work for Ron DeSantis. Okay, with that said, we're gonna move on to another topic in just a second. Man, that time just flies by. But I wanna thank Constrained Agency for being with us for 19 months on Twitch. Says feeding the thunder for over a year and a half. TDR was the reason I started watching the 2IT Network. Well, thank you so much, that's very nice of you. Okay, Bohemian Dragon Tiger Lily has been here for 32 months. Damn, says he identifies a woman as his wife that he's not attracted to. What a strange thing. Love the hair, John. Well, thank you for that. But yeah, Trump is certainly a weird character. Progressive 37's been here for 20 months. Thank you. Dented Head Ed for 20 months as well. 20 months ago, we were very popular, apparently. People started signing up. Lucky Pletcher Dragon's been here for 8 months. Thank you so much. Mentioned, by the way, that something similar to what happened on the set of Rust happened on the set of The Crow, which is totally true. Okay, with that said, why don't we jump into this next topic?
Freedom T, Freedom T, Freedom T, Freedom T, Freedom T, Freedom T.
So it's been a number of days that Andrew Tate and his associates have been held by authorities on allegations of human trafficking and rape. And since that happened, a number of videos and comments and voicemails and text messages have come out, specifically from Andrew Tate, declaring that he had raped people and that he loved that he had raped people. And I'm not saying that I thought that would get through to people, but if you thought that it would get through to people, the fact that masses of men are parading through the streets of Athens in defense of him after all of that stuff came out isn't great. It's not great for men. It's not great for our world. It's not great for humanity that there appears to be nothing Tate can do, no length he can go to that will succeed in letting his cultists know that he loves the concept of raping and brutalizing women. He just states it outright over and over and over again. But again, I'm sort of misconstruing things. I can't speak for all of the men that marched there. This isn't about believing it happened or not. This is about whether you care. Is it a bad thing to rape women? Is it a bad thing to beat women, to subjugate women, to exploit women? This isn't about whether he did it. It's about whether those are things that we should care at all about. Are women humans that have rights, that deserve dignity and consideration, or do they not? And I guess I'm at kind of a loss because I'm coming into this whole Tate thing a couple years late. I think he's already won that argument with millions of men, and that's what truly scares me, Bridget.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Tate has explicitly said that he does not think that women have rights, should have rights. So he's already made that very clear. You used the word cultist earlier, and I really want to drill into that because something I really, really think is important about Andrew Tate is that the millions of men who listen to his programming, the people who are marching in the streets, he is conning these men. He has openly talked about how he makes millions of dollars by getting men to sign on to what is basically an MLM that he runs. These people are being grifted and duped by someone who does not care about them and who weaponizes their hate and their vulnerability and their fear to make money. Andrew Tate is a scammer. He is a grifter. He is every girl that you went to high school with who sends you a Facebook message that's like, hey girly, ever thought about selling leggings? You'd be so good at it. The only difference is that he is weaponizing misogyny and hate and stoking something very dangerous inside of a generation of young men and boys. It is disgusting, it is very dangerous, and people need to understand he is doing it to make money, to personally enrich Andrew Tate. He doesn't care about any of these people that he is somehow able to get to march in the streets in support of him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, in defense of the person from high school, the worst crime they've committed against women is getting them to purchase overpriced and probably poor quality leggings. Nothing beyond that, at least. Yeah, and look, I doubt there's a single person who would still be watching this clip at this point that likes Andrew Tate. They probably clicked on it and then immediately typed something about how the Matrix is coming for him and women don't deserve rights or something, and then clicked away. But if you are here, Bridget is 100% right. I know that you believe that if you follow Andrew Tate, you'll get gorgeous women to sleep with you and you'll become rich. What you need to bear in mind is that while he implies that he has gotten rich off a variety of different ways, he hasn't. He's stolen money from women who he has forced into sex work. I'm assuming you're not gonna duplicate that, so that road's probably closed to you. And he actually made money by selling classes. Now, maybe you can start a Hustler University, but if you're not planning on doing that, you're not gonna get rich following Andrew Tate. In fact, you're gonna get $50 less rich every single month for the rest of your life. That's gonna be the extent of his financial impact on your life. Really fast, there's this thing going around that is so stupid. Take a look at this picture from Vice. It's a hand gesture you can use to show support for him, which is very cool and mature. It's a thing adults do. Also, probably a good thing that your hero is so toxic that you can't openly show support for him. You have to do a secret hand symbol. That's probably a good thing to be involved in. And then there's a lot of stuff where like people are speculating. They're good like conspiracy theorists, researchers and stuff about the connection to the Illuminati and all that. Like at the end of the day, it's like we don't need to dignify this. I know how this happened. Andrew Tate is an idiot. He is just clever enough to say, I'm gonna do this thing and they're gonna love it. And that's right, they will. He'll do a thing or he'll say a word and they will just, they are sheep eager. Like they want to be conned by him. So he does the hand thing and then they do the hand thing. And I'm not saying that it's not troubling if you're a teacher and a whole bunch of 12-year-old boys are starting to do this or whatever. That is deeply distressing. But there's no deeper meaning to it. It's just it's a meme, it's an in-group thing. It's designed to show a connection to this incredibly toxic, horrible person. That's it. Anyway, final thoughts, Bridget?
I think you're exactly right. I think it's really sad that someone would need to, like, what kind of normal, healthy adult whose claim is that everybody loves him, he's so rich, needs to have a secret hand gesture to show support of him? Like, think about it.
Yeah, the like societal deprogramming that's gonna be necessary for this is just so awful. And again, like if you are a Tate fan, like I don't understand how you cannot see how much following this man sets you back, specifically in the areas where you so explicitly, desperately need help. You need financial help, and I don't doubt it. It's very tough times. Handing your money over every month to a con artist is no way to get out of that hole. You have problems with women or whatever. Training yourself to hate them more, fear them more, attack them more is not the magic solution to your relationship and sexual problems that you've been convinced it is. But what do I know? I'm only in a happy marriage. Anyway, we're gonna move on to one more topic. Bridget, I'm gonna let you choose. Do you want to move on to H or I? I'm gonna read a comment, you look at them, and then you let me know, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Dusty Jones says in a super chat, could it just be January 20th, 2025, where Democrats are fully in control of Congress, the GQP is non-existent completely? Please let the madness end. Dusty Jones, I want to bookmark this and then check the state of the nation on January 20th, 2025. It might not be as rosy as you're guessing. Anyway, the frickin' has been a subscriber on Twitch for 19 months. Thank you so much for that. Good to have you here. What do you think?
Are you kidding? The robots.
Okay, I figured, well, I know H is important too. We'll do it tomorrow. But in that case, if we could get ready for our robots, whenever you're good to go, let's jump into this.
Oh, I am ready.
I forgot my tools again.
Dude, just go get your tools, man. You could save yourself like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm kidding. Obviously, that is impressive. This is the most recent release from Boston Dynamics of their robot, which in previous iterations had been able to walk and maybe pick up things a little bit. Now it's doing, like it's styling on people is all it is. That's the only way to put it. It's doing needless little flips and cartwheels and stuff. And it is impressive. We're gonna jump into our discussion in a sec, but first, here is more of our future robot overlord.
Such a show off.
We're doomed. Okay, so it is important at this point for me to point out what probably doesn't need to be pointed out, which is that every single bit of that was very carefully constructed. Every movement, whether that was the first take or the 100th take or whatever, and I know that the dude's acting was very natural, and so you probably wouldn't believe that it was scripted. But anyway, he's not an actor; he's probably an engineer. Anyway, that said, I don't at the end of the day really care if a front flip of a robot was scripted. if it can still do it even occasionally, because that is crazy. Bridget, what do you think? I know you're big into tech. Well, what do you think of this?
Well, I'm big into tech. First of all, you ever notice how the robots always move so weird? Like the way they run is always so off-putting. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm big into tech, but I'm also big into empathy and slowing down and asking questions. And I think so much in tech moves so quickly, and people are like, we should do this, we should do that, without asking like, should we do this? Is this a good idea? So I think one of the reasons why people have such a visceral reaction to robot technology is because you can imagine that the engineers who are making this are not asking some of those questions about, whether or not it's a good idea, the ethics of this kind of thing, keeping human and human empathy at the center of your design choices, all of that. I think folks are right to be concerned because there's not a great track record for engineers and tech folks to really think about things in that way.
Yeah, no, I think that you're totally right. There is something that can be off-putting upon seeing it, although the movement of that one, it was far more impressive. I mean, not just the flip, but the way that it was moving, the way that it jumped down and its knees worked, I found to be particularly impressive. It's advancing, and it's advancing pretty fast. Again, we have no idea if that took 100 tries, and they lost 5 robots to them falling and breaking their knees. We don't know. It's all PR. That's all that this is, but it's still impressive. That said, thus far, I have yet to see a demonstration of something the robot can do where it makes literally any sense to have the robot do that thing rather than a human, because I'm guessing that robot don't cost $5,000. What are some things that you might want a robot to do? Well, they probably don't involve throwing tools. They probably involve throwing grenades. And so there was a meme going around of 2 of these robots like laying into targets with machine guns. And then like a scientist is walking up and being like, we want to put a video together. Maybe it could like fetch some tools. Like that's probably not what they're mainly training it on. This stuff is gonna be, these robots are gonna be doing some dangerous things. And so it is very interesting though. I mean, that looked more humanoid in its movements. The fact that it could do a sort of Carrie Strug style tuck and spin. I don't know. I'm both impressed and also worried. I can imagine that thing chasing me through like the destroyed ruins of downtown LA someday. What do you think?
When is TYT gonna green light the robot damage report?
We're gonna be the robot damage at some point. Anyway,
we're gonna rundown of all the damage they've caused.
Exactly, and then they'll come for us. Anyway, that's all the time we have for robots and other news on today's show. As always, Bridget, it's a pleasure to have you here. Until next time, though, where can people watch more of your work?
You can listen to me on iHeartRadio's Internet Hate Machine or on my other podcast, There Are No Girls on the Internet. You can follow me on social media at Bridget Marie on Twitter and at Bridget Marie in DC on Instagram.
Awesome, great to have you here. Everyone at home, thank you for watching. Go check those out. Also, Indisputable is up next. You're not gonna wanna miss it. And coming up very soon for our tier 3 members on YouTube in 34 minutes, we're gonna be going live on YouTube for our monthly members hangout. I got a bunch of behind the scenes stuff to talk about, some creative stuff to talk about. My dabbling once again in wrestling, that's been very exciting. We're gonna talk about that a little bit and whatever you guys wanna talk about. So I hope to see you there. Also go to the community tab on our YouTube page. Vote for your community garbage person of the week, and Brett and I will be revealing that tomorrow. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.